You're listening to Out of the Box podcast with Rosie Tran. Out of the Box is sponsored by hugmetees.com. Spread love, give a hug, hugmetees.com. Guys, we are on SoundCloud. I know I say it every single episode, but I know some of you guys are SoundCloud. Our numbers on iTunes and Stitcher are awesome. Thumbs up. But SoundCloud, it's sad. There's not that many followers and there's not as many listens as I would like. So go on SoundCloud. If you are an Out of the Box subscriber already, just go in there and click on the, follow button and follow our page. It just helps me out and gives me a little self-confidence boost that you guys are listening so that I can keep going on with the podcast. So, this is part 2 of Personal Finance solo episode, which I released a couple weeks ago. And before I go on any further, I'm going to give this disclaimer. I am not giving any advice as a professional financial advisor. All information given in this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. If you have financial questions, you need to find a financial advisor or certified public accountant in your area. And that's it. That's my disclaimer. So I don't want anyone saying, well, I heard this on the podcast and it didn't work or whatever, because I'm not going to be giving specific financial advice. I'm just giving you guys my thoughts and opinions. So I hope that you guys had a chance last 2 weeks ago, actually, to look at yourself and say, hey, where do my financial beliefs come from? And the reason that this is so important is because if you don't have that emotional intelligence foundation for your finances, you're going to sabotage yourself. Like I said, this is where people who are making 6-7 figures, who are always broke, right? We've heard of people who are in the 1% who feel quote unquote poor, feel broke all the time. And it's because they don't have that sense of fulfillment. So the money is nothing, because finances and money and wealth and abundance, they're all tools. They don't have any value whatsoever. They're a projection for self-esteem and for beliefs. So it's very important for us to look at our beliefs and say, hey, wait a minute. What are my beliefs about money? What are my beliefs about finance? What are some of the negative conversations that I was raised with? What are some of the cultural beliefs that I was raised with regarding finance? And once we examine those, then we can actually move forward into some of the specifics of what can be done. I have read so many financial books and I have read so many financial blogs. And what I would say, first of all, before I tell you guys what I think is important, is for you to really pick and choose what works for you. For example, I listen to Dave Ramsey and I think he has a lot of really great financial information, but I consider it very basic. I think a lot of people don't have a basic understanding of finance, and he gives a very good basic foundation. There are other financial gurus or people that I follow. As you guys know, I'm a huge Robert Kiyosaki fan. His techniques are a bit riskier. They're a bit more complex for people who can handle that. Now, if you can't even balance your checkbook, you want to stick with something that is more basic until you have the financial intelligence to move a little bit further and use leverage and other types of financial tools to get the wealth that you desire. But, you need to pick and choose what is right for you and what's right for your comfort level. I don't want you trading options or trading penny stocks if, you don't even know what a stock is. But the most important thing that my advice that I could give is to really do your homework and do your research, what feels right for you, and to do your basic homework, have a basic understanding of finance. I was listening to, like I said, Dave Ramsey's radio show just the other day, and these callers calling in, I want to smack them across the face. It sounds like a lot of the callers don't even have a basic understanding. This woman called in and was talking about mutual funds, and she's like, well, I just don't understand anything that, they're talking about. Okay, you need to understand and these concepts are very basic. A lot of people confuse themselves. They go on Yahoo Finance and they see, net asset value and all these complex finance words, and they go, oh, well, this is just too confusing for me. I don't understand this. And, you don't need to know a bunch of financial jargon like asset class and, net asset value and all this other stuff. to know the basics of finance. So I'm going to go over some basics, but just so you know, I'm not going to teach you how to sell penny stocks. If you want to learn about making millions on penny stocks, go follow, what's Timothy Sykes, or if you want to know whatever a specialty, then you're going to have to unfortunately do the work and buy the books and listen to the podcast, other specialty podcasts, and read about it. But the main thing that I want you guys to do is really do your homework and understand the basics. Again, don't get confused. Don't get, overwhelmed. The basics are so easy. A third grader could understand basic finance. Unfortunately, that finance is not taught in schools to most people. And so people get overwhelmed by it. They get anxious. They get freaked out, but it's pretty simple stuff. Like I said, it's less than third grade math. It's adding, subtracting, dividing, multiplying. That is how simple basic finance is. But people really, get overwhelmed by it. They get freaked out, and then they make it a bigger deal, which is back to part one of this, podcast, why you need to examine your personal beliefs about money. Were your parents fighting a lot when it came to finance growing up? Or, do they talk about things openly? Examine those things. And I know that you guys have taken the last 2 weeks to take your time to really understand where you're coming from when it comes to money. I want to start off with eliminating of debt, because I think that there is absolutely no way that you can live in financial abundance if you're in indentured servitude to another. I believe that, some people believe that all debt is bad debt. I do not believe this. I believe that there's two types of debt, and that there's good debt and bad debt. This is very, very simple. Good debt is any debt that is creating more income. All right. So if you borrow money for your business, you have an independent business and you're borrowing money to grow your business, I do not consider this a bad debt. Why? Because it's bringing in money. It's not just debt that you're just getting for no reason when you're going on a shopping spree. You're actually using this money to grow your business. Whereas if you did it on your own, you wouldn't have the financial means to do so. So any debt that you are using to grow your business or to leverage investments, unless, it's something really, really risky, which we'll go over in a little bit, is good debt, in my opinion. Again, I'm not, giving advice as a professional financial advisor on this podcast. I'm giving you my opinion. Any debt that does not create any value in your life is bad debt. Clear and simple. If you're going on shopping sprees, if you're buying cars you can't afford, if you are, racking up credit card debt, spending for the basics, even for the basics, if it's going in and out and it is not creating any type of financial value, I consider that bad debt. Your home, if you own your own home, is neutral debt. You're like, wait, what a minute? That doesn't make sense. I know I just said there was one or two, but I forgot about, your home. Why is your home neutral debt? You hear multiple real estate investment people, agents, lenders and everything saying, oh, your home is your biggest investment. Your home is your biggest investment. That is not necessarily true. If you're living in a home that you can't afford, if you've purchased something way out of your means, if your mortgage payment is barely making ends meet, I don't consider that a positive investment. Yet, I do believe that owning your own property, home, condo, whatever, is better than renting, because renting, in my opinion, is part of indentured servitude. You are giving your hard-earned money every month to a landlord to either pay their mortgage or make them wealthy. So I absolutely am against renting. There are very few exceptions to that. If you're in the process of moving in between places and you need a place in between, if you haven't been able to yet save up the money, obviously, to purchase a home or purchase a townhouse, condo, whatever you want to call it, or whatever you want to purchase, that's fine. But, I consider, again, the home purchase not, I think realtors are obviously cited to tell you what a great investment it is. Buying a home is neutral as far as debt is concerned, because if you own a home, then every month your payment is going to equity, which is positive. That's a type of way to pay yourself, so that when you sell that home, you'll be able to recoup the cost or make some money if your home value appreciates. But it's not necessarily considered good debt in my eyes, because you're not making any money off it unless, you're doing Airbnb or couchsurfer.com, or you're renting out spare rooms to roommates in your house. Then I would consider it a positive debt, because you're then getting, money back from it, cash flow. But other than those examples that I just gave, the debt on your home is neutral as far as I'm concerned. It's not positive or negative, because it's not bringing in money, but it's not, sucking money away from you. So right now, I want to talk about bad debt, which is the number one way to stay in absolute poverty. And, most people have credit card debt and they just don't understand how to get rid of it. I spoke about this on the Sample Hour podcast. If you guys want to listen to that podcast, I go off on a bit of a tangent. So sorry about that. I get really passionate about personal finance. But, my advice would be to get a 0% interest APR card. A lot of people say, well, what if I don't have good credit and they don't offer it to me? They do. Credit card companies after the Great Recession are desperate for business because people are being a little bit more fiscally conservative. And most cards, even if you have decent credit, not awful credit, but, good to great, even average, I think average, I know people that have average, not poor credit, but average credit, and they get these 0% intro cards because the credit card companies know that you, are dependent on them at this point if you have credit card debt. And so they'll be offering you these. I think Uncle Yoshi from the Yoshi Denton podcast, he uses my house as a mailing address, and he has awful credit. He has creditors calling him all the time. And I think that he gets 0% intro cards. I'm pretty sure he gets the offer. So the whole, well, what if you have bad credit thing? I don't think that's a factor. I think credit card companies, are, snakes in the grass, and they really don't care if they're, if you're a cocaine addict, they'll give you more cocaine. So take a 0% interest APR card. Usually they'll offer 0% interest for 6 months to a year. And you want to roll over your main debt into these cards. And this is a technique that I actually learned from an NPR interview with a Mexican immigrant woman who paid for her children, I think 3 or 4 kids, to go to college using these 0% interest APR cards because she didn't qualify for a student loan. And I remember when I decided to tackle my husband and I's credit card debt, I didn't have any. When I married him, he had a bit of credit card debt, and I committed to supporting him to pay that off. And I had been receiving these 0% interest APR cards for years, and I would always throw them in the trash can. And then I heard the NPR story, and there's this saying that there are answers all around us if we're present and open enough to see them. And I wasn't open. I was just throwing these cards away, not even thinking anything of it. Meanwhile, we were paying 6% interest on his student loans, and actually he was not being present to one of his credit cards and was paying over 30% interest on one of them, which is ridiculous. And so, one day I was at our PO box and I got one of those 0% interest APR cards, and it was like a light bulb went off in my head. I'm like, whoa, why am I paying 6% and 30% when I could be paying 0%? So what you want to do is you want to roll over as much debt as you can onto a 0% interest APR card. And so that way that debt isn't continuing to grow and grow and grow like a three-headed monster that you can't control. And usually these cards, like I said, give you the APR for about 6 months to a year. And so you're going to roll it over and try to pay it down as much as you can. And then once that APR resets to the higher percentage, you apply for another 0% interest APR card. And guess what? You roll all of that over onto the new card, and you keep doing this until your debt is absolutely gone. And meanwhile, you stop using credit cards. So you're just going to roll over the current balance. You're not going to, roll over and then keep spending. No, you're going to cut off all credit card usage and put yourself on a budget. Now, I meet a lot of people who tell me that they are barely making ends meet and that they can't cut costs anymore. They're living paycheck to paycheck. And I hear that, and I understand that it feels very, very real. But what these people are not understanding is that they're living paycheck to paycheck from a brainwashed mentality, and they're not even realizing it. So, I've met people that said, I can barely make ends meet. I can barely pay my bills at the end of the month. I just need to make more money. I can't put myself on any more of a budget. And then I go through their finances with them, and it turns out they're eating out like 5 or 6 times a week, and they're not bringing their lunches, and they have cable bills that are $200 a month, and all these excesses that are completely and utterly ridiculous. And you have to understand that living within your means is very simple, and we all did it at one time. If we were broke college students, we did it. And you have to understand that in order to reach a goal, you have to make certain sacrifices. And if you're saying, well, I just can't do that, well, then you need to learn how to do it. That's the bottom line. You need to learn how to make certain sacrifices. If you have, $30,000 in debt, $20,000 in debt, you can't pay your bills, you got to PB&J it for like a couple weeks. You can't be going, to In-N-Out Burger or, the steakhouse or Morton's or wherever you're going and saying that you can't, you have to PB&J it. You have to go to the dollar store and buy a loaf of bread and a giant thing of, Jif peanut butter. And you just have to do that. You have to make sacrifices. And that is the only way you're going to pay off debts and get debt free. If that is an issue that you have, you can't go on the way you're going on. And so to live in America, if you're listening in America, if you're listening in other countries, I can't speak for that, is very easy to live cheaply. Very, very easy. We have dollar stores over here. We have discount grocery stores. We have Walmart, which I don't support, but if you, are really desperate, and, grocery bills can be less than $100. And you can live on less than $7,000 to $10,000 a year if you are willing to make sacrifices. Now, I'm not saying you have to sacrifice for the rest of your life. I'm just saying sacrifice until you get debt free, which if you follow what I'm advising or what my opinion is, this can be done in less than a year, 2 years, depending on how much debt you have. I think we paid off, $20,000 or $30,000 in a year. So it's really not that difficult if you're willing to, make that commitment. Also learn how to cook. I make meals for the week that, I have a grocery bill that's $30 and I make meals for the week, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's so easy. A lot of times people don't take into the account the full cost of something. So what does that mean, the full cost? So let's say it's Sunday, right? You've worked a really long, hard week and you want to do brunch at Denny's. You're like, hey, I want to go to Denny's. Denny's is cheap. Let's go do brunch at Denny's. So let's say it's you and a family of 4 and you go to Denny's. How much is that going to be? $30, $40? Oh, that's not that much. Now, there is a facade of convenience. I need a break. I deserve this. I need to break out. I cook every single week. I'm going to go to Denny's. Now, the actual cost of the Denny's breakfast is probably like $5 to $10. A loaf of bread, if you get bread, if you get toast, you get eggs, you get bacon. You can buy an actual bag of groceries with this amount of food for the entire week for $40. But because of your facade of convenience, your facade of comfort of I need to treat myself and go out, it actually takes more effort to go out to eat because you have to get in the car, you have to go find parking, you have to sit there and wait for the waiter and waitress. I make a gourmet breakfast every morning for me and my husband with fresh cut fruit, eggs, toast, bacon or sausage, and it literally takes me 15 minutes. way faster than getting in the car and driving to a restaurant. Sometimes they make grits. They're really good. Homemade Southern style grits. And it's just so much cheaper. And not only that, but you have to take into the total cost. How much do you get paid? Most people are working $10, $15 an hour jobs. So that $40 brunch for your family, which by the way took 2 hours instead of, an hour and a half, is actually costing you if you're getting paid $10 an hour, 4 hours of your life of indentured servitude to your corporation or business to have this supposed relaxing breakfast. So instead of having a 2-hour relaxing breakfast, you're actually having 4 hours of indentured servitude. So these are things that need to be taken into account with the facade of convenience. Oh, I'm just going to go to Chipotle. It's not a big deal. I'm just going to go here. I'm just going to go there. I deserve it. I'm going to treat myself. And really what you're treating yourself to is continuing to be in debt and continuing to be a wage slave. So we need to think about the total picture here and not just the immediate gratification of relaxing for an hour, because really it's not that relaxing to be worried about stress and bills and living paycheck to paycheck. So, learn how to cook. I would say when you're paying down that debt, you need to find an extra source of income. For those of you who are like, oh, I'm already working 9 to 5, I'm working 40 hours a week, or, oh, I have 2 jobs. That is, labor for money. That is physical work for money, even if you're in a white collar job. You need to think about ways to earn residual income or side money, as I like to call it, side hustling, right? So if you don't know what the internet is at this point in time, you need to figure out what it is, and you need to go on Google and find out about the side hustle, because there are literally thousands and thousands of opportunities, probably millions actually, of websites dedicated to the side hustle and dedicated to different side hustle ideas. I'll give you some of the ideas of things I've done. I've sold makeup on eBay and I made thousands of dollars from this. Not hundreds of thousands of dollars, but thousands of dollars. You can go to garage sale hunting. You can do things. There was a guy dumpster diving that was finding stuff in the dumpster and selling it, and he was making $300,000 a year finding stuff in the dumpster and reselling it on Craigslist. So there are absolutely amazing opportunities now with the internet. If you are not creative enough, then you need to learn how to get creative. You need to get committed and fired up and say, hey, I am done with living in poverty. I am done with living paycheck to paycheck, and get creative. Again, I'm not advocating everyone go jumping in the dumpster, but this is an option. There are so many options. There's a couple in Los Angeles that have season tickets to the Dodgers, and they can collect. They have their big bags after the games, and they go around and they collect cans and trash and recycle them. And they also are Mexican immigrants. Mexican immigrants are very smart here, and they put a couple kids through college as well. So, they were going to the games anyway because they were Dodger fans. They thought, hey, they created a win-win situation. They saw the trash being left behind, and they were like, wait a minute, we can clean this up and make money. So these are just some ideas. Obviously you can do an online business. There's other ways to leverage you can leverage your mind without spending the time. A lot of people think, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to do this other job. I'm going to have to work. It's so much effort. There's another thing. No, when I was selling makeup online, which I am no longer doing, I would buy this makeup in bulk, just list it. And then every time I got a sale, I would have my packaging right next to the computer, package it off, on the way to an errand or on the way to a comedy show, drop it off in the mailbox. It literally took 5 minutes. It didn't take any time, and I made thousands of dollars. I would say that the residual income that I make from side projects that I have is in about $10,000. I would say about $10,000 a year I am making from side projects, side hustles, as I would call them. And there are things that I spend little to no effort on whatsoever. I sold underwear online. I did all sorts of stuff, and it took no effort. When I say no effort, I mean literally 10 minutes a week at the most. and making, thousands of dollars in side money. So, I don't know what you want to do, whatever fits with you. There's people, women, if you're creative, if you have a hobby, there's Etsy. My sister-in-law is selling her homemade, chapsticks and candles and stuff on Etsy. There's just so much opportunity out there. So get creative, get fired up. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Go on Google and Google how someone else did it and literally just copy them. That's what I did. I remember sitting with my husband and saying, there has to be a better way. There has to be a way for us to make more money. We're very intelligent people. Other people are doing it. It's not rocket science. There has to be a way. And I spent like a weekend just Googling different side hustle ideas and coming up with different ideas and trial and error. I remember buying Halloween costumes online, wholesale from China, and selling them around Halloween time. And I failed at it. It was horrible. Nobody wanted my Halloween costumes. And I still actually have a bunch of Halloween costumes upstairs in my closet. And it was a complete failure. I didn't lose that much money in it, but I learned a lot. And so you have to be willing to take some small risks and say, hey, how can I come up with something creative? And, in this environment of entrepreneurial spirit, in this environment of the information age, there is just so much stuff out there, and you can really get creative and make a lot of extra money. Again, I'm not making millions of dollars because I have other pursuits, comedy, podcasting, other things that bring me passion and not that much money. But, I like to be balanced, so I'm still happy. But, I'm making a good $10,000 a year in residual income from various side projects that I've set up. So if you are like, I need to make extra money and I don't want to spend time doing it, go on Google, spend a weekend, invest in yourself, and find an alternative way to create additional income. And I'm telling you, you will be surprised how many websites are out there dedicated to the art of the side hustle. And, you can do market researches. If you're living in a big city like Chicago, New York, or Los Angeles, San Francisco, there's companies called, market research. And what that is marketing companies hire regular people like you to give your opinion on different products. It's so easy. It's like you just go and you're like, okay, I like this, I don't like this. That's it. You're just giving your opinion. And, I've made thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars off that. And it's super, super easy. So, again, go online and get creative. So let's talk about what I just mentioned. I said, let's get rid of debt. And how do we get rid of debt? We get rid of debt by rolling everything over to a 0% APR card, aggressively paying that off, putting ourselves on a very tight budget, very tight, a sacrifice for a year or two, which is not that long. I remember being 19, I'm 31 now. That happened in like 2 seconds. And, I've met people that are in their 50s that are like, I remember being 19, now it's over. So a year and 2 years is nothing. And put yourself, on a little fast, a little spending fast. Shift over from, going to Macy's to going to thrift store. Believe it or not, I have found crazy finds at the thrift store, like crazy $100 jeans for $10 if you're a shopaholic. Just switch around the way you do things. And also find a side hustle. Side hustling is what it's all about. It's awesome. It's super easy. And it's been done before. So all you have to do is find someone that did it and just copy what they did. Now I want to talk about what happens after you get out of debt. So after you get out of debt, you want to make a goal for yourself, whether that's purchasing a property so that you're no longer paying a landlord and living in indentured servitude under a landlord, or, investing. Investing is not risky. I want to repeat that again. Investing is not risky. Now, some of you might be like, well, I know someone who invested and they lost a lot of money. That person did not know what they were doing. Does investing have risk? Yes. Is it risky? No. Rosie, what the heck are you talking about? I'm talking about income inequality. I'm talking about every single time an income inequality report comes out and they talk about how the poor are getting poorer, the middle class are getting poorer, and the rich get richer. And then everyone gets really mad and they huff and puff and they go, oh, it's so unfair and this and that, and the rich always get richer. But then they don't finish reading the article or listening to the interview or listening to the NPR report or listening to the financial report. And they say why the rich get richer. And the reason the rich get richer is because the rich don't work for money. They have money work for money. That's called financial leverage. That's called investing, right? So if you're a angry little upper middle class or below, and you're thinking, why the heck am I not getting richer? We just need to follow what the rich are doing, right? And I think the statistic was that the majority of wealthy and extremely affluent people get the majority of their income from assets, whereas the majority of lower class and poor and middle class and upper middle class people get their money from working. So why would we keep running on this treadmill that's not giving us results? Why don't we just copy what they're doing? And, I know a lot of people who are against investing because they think either the stock market is a scam, or they think that, well, I don't want to invest in companies like Monsanto, as you guys know, the GMO company, nicknamed Monsanto, or I don't want to invest in Wall Street because it's corrupt. First of all, there are stocks, that are sold for companies that have a positive message. There's, as you guys know, I'm a conscious capitalist. I've talked about it a couple times. So you can invest in companies that you believe in, because those companies are going to go on whether you put money in them or not, and they're going to go on making money. And if you support them because you believe in those companies, you're actually making money for investors. So why not go and put some of your own money in there and get some of it back? That's a really good way to invest if you are morally against some corporations on Wall Street or whatever, to invest in companies that you put your money anyway, right? Like, say you go to Whole Foods all the time. Why not invest in Whole Foods stock? You're obviously believing in the mission statement of this company by giving them your dollars. You're voting for them. So why not put money in the stock and become an investor, an owner, and actually make dividends and money back on these stocks? So there's a way to invest in companies that you believe in as well, if you are morally against it. Because I hear that a lot from people who have higher levels of awareness and higher consciousness levels and good values and morality. They're like, well, I just don't, Wall Street is a scam and I just don't want to invest in these crooked companies. Well, then don't invest in Goldman Sachs. Don't invest in Monsanto. Don't put your money in, companies that make war machines. Just don't do it. Put your money in those stocks of the companies that you believe in, that you believe have a positive message. Put your money into solar energy companies. Don't buy, oil stocks. Put your money where your mouth is. You're putting your dollar in those cash registers every week. So why not put those dollars back in your own pocket and create those assets for yourself? And the easy thing is, with websites like ShareBuilder and E-Trade, you can start out really, really small. And it's very important that you start, because we hear, again, the same statistics every time: income inequality, poor getting poor, middle class bend over and take it, and the rich getting richer because they're creating more wealth from assets. Assets are what need to be acquired to pull yourself. And the amazing thing is that anyone can do it. And that is the freedom of capitalism and the free market economy, is that anyone can become extremely, extremely wealthy if you just invest and diversify. Don't put, if you have $10,000 to invest, don't put $10,000 in Whole Foods stock. That's just silly. If you are uncomfortable, you can, make your own mutual fund, so to speak. Put, $1,000 in Whole Foods and $1,000 in, Lululemon or whatever. Whatever companies you believe in, you can invest that way. And there's actually certain mutual funds out there that only invest in morally reputable companies, or companies that, are not sketchy. But the key is to start doing it. And the key is I follow, I've read many, many financial books, and the guy that I absolutely love is Warren Buffett. And I follow his advice, which is to dollar cost average and consistently invest. And, I know a lot of people get freaked out because of the Great Recession, and they get freaked out because, the economy crashed or whatever. But, look at the market now. It's been a raging bull straight up. And that's, where it's very important to understand the psychology of investing, which is that, everyone knows buy low, sell high, but when things are low, people start selling because they get scared, right? So whenever people are freaking out, that's when you want to put more money in. And I know a lot of investors say you can't time the market, which is why I love dollar cost averaging. And if you guys don't know what dollar cost averaging is, it's investing consistently a same amount at a certain time of the month or a certain time of the week. And the theory behind dollar cost averaging is that, despite volatility, ups and downs, if you regularly put money into the market, then on average, you end up paying less because some days the market is up and some days it's down, because that theory is that you cannot time the market. And so you just consistently invest a little bit. And I would encourage everyone, a lot of people put their money in a savings account. And I've heard that that's a financial misunderstanding. A lot of people say, well, I put money in a savings account. I just didn't see it grow, so I stopped saving. That's because you're not supposed to be putting money in a savings account. You're supposed to be putting money in an investment account, because the savings account interest is like 0.0001%. So you're not going to see that money grow. You're actually losing money. It's actually better to put your money under your mattress than to put it in a savings account or a CD in this current market. Interest rates change and stuff like that. But in this current market, which right now currently is a raging bull, you need to have your money in an investment savings account, an investment brokerage account, or investment mutual fund account, not a savings account. And so I know you guys get brainwashed. Oh, savings account, you're saving money. No, you need to have that money working for you. Every dollar that you have can either put you deeper into indentured servitude or buy your freedom and work for you. Every dollar that you have is a little servant that can go and work for you and make more money. So I strongly advise, I'm not going to say any specific investments, because again, it's up to you. Are you wanting to go very aggressive? Then look out there in emerging markets, look out there, world stocks or foreign stocks. Are you willing to go, very conservative? I don't know what your risk tolerance is, and I don't know, again, if you're morally against certain companies. So, but it doesn't matter. It honestly does not matter. If you're diversifying, the likelihood of you investing, because a lot of people get scared. I bought a bad stock a couple years ago called Washington Mutual. I had the right idea, but wrong company. It was right when the banks were crashing. All the bank stocks were crashing. I thought, all right, everyone's fear selling, so I need to buy. And so I bought Washington Mutual, which ended up going out of business, and I lost my initial investment. I lost all my money. But had I bought literally any other bank, I would have made a bunch of money. But it taught me something, because I was scared, to jump into the market. And what I learned is that you have to take some risk and some calculated risk, but the key is to put your money into the market and stop being afraid. I remember I read a book when I was 19 that said, just put your money in. All this analyzing and overanalyzing and fear, you could have made like a bunch of money by now. Put your money into companies that you believe in and diversify, and you will always make money. And I think I was 22 or 23 when I first started investing in the market, and I got super, lucky in a way, but not really, because I just followed the plan that I read about from Warren Buffett, and I just followed it. And even with the market crashing, I always made money because I trusted his advice, and I trusted that, corporations always make money. They always make money. And if you diversify, why not you? Why not you, getting a piece of the American pie, or, wherever you live, getting a piece of that pie? Because that money goes to when you, go to Target or whatever, those profits go somewhere. They go to the, investors in the form of dividends and appreciation of stock value and other things like that. So, why not you? Why don't you get a piece of the pie? You're spending your money there. It doesn't make sense for you to keep, going paycheck to paycheck like that. So get out of debt and start putting your money, again, little bit by little bit into the market. I also strongly recommend residual income and wealth accumulation through real estate. I hear so many people, I don't want to be a landlord. I don't want to fix pipes. I don't want to. The majority of wealthy people own real estate. the majority of wealthy people own at least one rental property. Why? Because it makes logical sense. Someone is going out there every single day and earning a buck so they can give it to you. That just makes logical sense. It's something that will never go out of business because people always need a place to live. And there is affordable property everywhere. You know, I live in LA, and there's affordable property here if you know where to look. And, you know, you don't have to fix pipes, and you don't have to, you know, fix toilets and all this other stuff. That's why there's so many amazing management companies that manage rental properties for people, and they take a small percentage, right? So whatever your story is, or your excuse about why you're not investing in the market, or why you're not investing in real estate, or why you're not, you know, accumulating more wealth for yourself, guess what? It's all an excuse. Because I am someone who was making below poverty level on some years, right? There was years I did stand up and I made less than, you know, $9,000 that year. And I was still able to live below my means and pay off my credit card debts and invest money. So it depends on your level of commitment, and it depends on your level of, again, part 1, episode 1 of financial intelligence and personal finance. You need to look in the mirror and say, what are the negative stories I've been telling myself about money? If you are committed to your goal, I promise you, you will absolutely achieve it. If you have an excuse or a negative reason why you shouldn't be doing X, Y, or Z, guess what? I have a solution to help you get through it. Because what that is your ego mind creating up excuses. Oh, well, you know, investment in real estate is dangerous. I know someone who did X, Y, Z and they failed at it. Or I know someone who did X, Y, Z and they went under. Well, you're not someone else. Because you're going to do your due diligence, just like I'm telling you to. You're going to go online and you're going to read books, and you're going to get all of the information that you need to get. A lot of people jump into stuff. They don't know what they're doing. Right? Oh, well, I heard so-and-so did this, so I'm going to do this. No, you need to do your research and your due diligence and get the correct information before you do, you know, any type of investing. And I know that you're going to do that because you're an Out of the Box podcast listener and you're very, very, very intelligent. But just know that all those negative stories in your mind, all those negative excuses why you're not investing, why you're not saving as much money that you should have, why you're still in credit card debt, those are all ego-based excuses to hold you small, and that's your ego talking. And that's cool. You just tell your ego to shut the fuck up and say, okay, because every time there's a problem, guess what? There's a solution. The only reason you're having these negative conversations is because you're in fear. And you're in the reason that negative conversations come up in your mind is because you don't have the knowledge. So once you get the knowledge and you get the solutions, then those negative conversations they're just nothing. They have no power. So the more information that you have, the more you can make those negative conversations dissipate. So it's very, very, very important to get your mind and your emotional intelligence in the right place and say, hey, I'm committed to this goal. And when you're committed to a goal, you can accomplish absolutely anything because I believe in you. And if I can do it, anyone can do it. I'm telling you right now. Another thing, if you're single, this is going to be a little bit harder. And if you have kids, this is going to be a little bit harder. If you are married or in a relationship, guess what? You have double the power if both members of this relationship are employed. So that's super awesome. And one of the techniques you can use, which I talked about on the financial episode with Jake DeSillis, is living off of only one income. So maybe you would live off your husband or wife's income, and then or boyfriend, girlfriend, and the other significant other would be putting all of their paycheck towards the credit card debt. That way it gets paid off super quick. Or one spouse is paying for all the bills and the living expenses, and the other spouse is putting all of their money towards investments. And I'm telling you, that makes it like just super, super fast. Can you do this if you're single? Absolutely. Is it a little bit harder? Yes. But that means that you get to be a little bit more committed, right? And you get to be a little bit more fired up and put that fire under your butt and be like, all right, I can do this. If you have kids, again, an extra expense, but it's okay. It can get done. You know, kids, are not that expensive. A lot of people think kids are super expensive, but they're actually not. It's parents projecting their lack of abundance onto kids. I hear a lot of parents, oh, I want to give my kids everything that, I didn't have. And so they overspend on their kids and they go absolutely crazy to the point of ridiculousness to try to prove that, they made it because they can spend all this money on their kids. Well, guess what? That's why you're living paycheck to paycheck, because you're spending way too much money on your kids. And kids don't even care about that. It's so funny. People don't remember being a kid. I remember being a kid and actually my dad talking about how, well, I need to work 4 jobs because my dad worked 4 jobs so I can put food on the table, and you just don't understand because you're a little kid. And I was like, well, Dad, I don't care about money. I just want you to spend time with me. And that's how kids are. They want the currency of childhood is actually attention, not material possessions and not financial abundance. The currency of childhood is spend time with me, pay attention with me, listen to me, look at what I'm doing, Mom, look at what I'm doing, Dad, play with me, right? And kids, I've seen kids, so many kids get these amazing, expensive Christmas presents, and they don't even care about the present. They want to play with the wrapping paper, right? They want to play with the box. They're like, wow, look at this really cool box. Look at this wrapping paper. So kids don't really care about money. They want to spend time with Mommy and Daddy. And the awesome thing about getting your finances in order is you get to work less and spend more time with your kids if you have kids. So these are all like super important things to know, and to know that, it doesn't cost a lot of money to have kids. It costs a lot of money to have kids if you're super superficial, and if you're projecting a lot of your childhood issues about not having, the cool sneakers or whatever onto your little kids. But kids actually don't care about stuff like that. Like I said, kids care about spend time with me, play with me, look at me, watch me, give me attention, hug me, listen to me, look at this silly picture that I drew, Mommy and Daddy. So that is not going to be as hard as you think if you're having kids and you're saying, oh my God, how are we going to get out of debt? It's not as hard as you think. And your kids will definitely appreciate spending more time with you. And, you can even make it a game. Make it a game with the kids. Make paying off debt a game with your kids. All right, little Johnny or little Susie, every time Mommy wants to go out to eat, you guys get to help Mommy by helping her make dinner instead, right? So instead of spending, $50 out at a restaurant, we get to spend family time together, and you guys get to cook for Mommy. And, they'll also teach your kids an amazing skill of cooking, and you get to take a break because you get to sit back and order your kids around. Be like, hey, do that. And you don't have to do it, and you can be off your feet. Or, hey, Mommy is really stressed out right now. Instead of going out to eat, why don't you guys give Mommy a massage or do something or whatever? Make it a game for the kids, make it fun for them so that, you're not spending money, but you're still, having fun and doing something fun as a family. So it's, again, like I said, easier than you think. So let's go over everything. Once again, I like to repeat myself in case, you guys are driving or whatever during the podcast and you're not listening 100%. Number 1, get out of credit card debt. Get out of debt in general. Get out of bad debt. Let me make that very, very clear. Get out of bad debt. Number 2, you want to start building assets. You want to get a side hustle. You want to get a side hustle and put that into place. And number 3, you want to create financial abundance by accumulating assets, right? It sounds so simple. You're like, oh my God, it sounds so easy to get rich. You're making it sound super easy. It's not. It's actually takes a lot of commitment, but the actual steps are very, very, very easy. And the key should be to retire early. The key should be to gain enough assets to cover your cost of living and to retire, because, life is too short to be a wage slave. You deserve financial freedom. You deserve to spend your days helping others, volunteering, doing creative things, doing things that you like, discovering who you really are, having passionate sex with your spouse and not, sitting in front of a computer. So these are all things that you deserve. And, a lot of people are absolutely totally brainwashed, and they're like, well, what are you going to, you need to work. You have to work. No, absolutely. You do not need to work. And if people are so obsessed with working, what about volunteering? There's so many amazing organizations out there that are helping the world to become a better place, and they are nonprofits, so they need people out there to volunteer. So, that would be a way more constructive way to contribute to society than sitting behind a desk, or, if you're a blue collar worker, using your hands and carrying stuff and using physical labor and tearing down your poor body. For just a couple bucks, it's not worth it. So if you follow these 3 easy steps, you can be wealthy. And it's not hard, because I know a lot of people who have followed these steps, and they, are pretty well off, and they're not that bright. So again, for the specifics, go online and do your due diligence. There are thousands and thousands of people who are experts at it that are way smarter and more intelligent than me. That was just a basic overview of personal finance, and I think you guys can do it, and I believe in you, because it's like super, super fun. That is it for episode part 2 of Personal Finance Out of the Box podcast. If you have any specific financial questions, or you want clarification on anything that I talked about, or you just want additional resources, you can send me an email at info@outoftheboxpodcast.com. And visit our sponsor, hugmetees.com. Spread love, give a hug, hugmetees.com. You can check us out on SoundCloud, Stitcher, and iTunes. Please go on iTunes. Please subscribe. Please leave a positive review. That's like my favorite, when you guys leave a positive review. If you hate the podcast, please leave a negative review. I don't care, because reviews make the podcast go higher in iTunes. So that's all I care about. And you can follow me on Twitter at FunnyRosie. If you are a fan of the podcast, the biggest compliment you can do is to tell someone else about the podcast. That makes me get a little mini boner. I know I'm a girl. It makes me wet, right? So tell someone else about the podcast. And, my mission is just to spread positivity, love, and light, and bring interesting guests to you guys. So I hope I've done that. This has been Out of the Box Podcast with Rosie Tran.